Welcome, everybody, to a very special edition of Trunk Nation, being heard on SiriusXM Faction Talk and Classic Rewind. I'm Eddie Trunk. Great to have everybody here. And we are celebrating the Best of All Worlds, a tour just recently announced by Sammy Hagar. And to get things started, we're going to get the guys out here right now. First, welcoming on the drums, let's get Mr. Jason Bonham in here. And on, there he is, on bass guitar, Mr. Michael Anthony. On guitar, Joe Satriani. And, of course, the Red Rocker himself, the one and only Sammy Hagar. And I'm told that before we get yapping for a bit, the guys are going to get things started with a classic, a Van Halen classic. Everybody good with that? Take it away, Sam.
Well, we had an opportunity this morning to play and sing at 6 o'clock in the morning for Howard Stern. And it's like I have a song called Father Time where the favorite line in there is, when was the last time you did something for the first time? Well, that was this morning. So I'm living it up, the dreams. But so we're a little fried, my voice. Well, I'll speak for myself. My voice is fucked up right now. But it's okay. I'll put on my shades and I'll just get through it. You watch this, because this is this is not the most tame song I've ever sang in my life. But because it's the Best of All Worlds tour, we figured it'd be good to do Best of Both Worlds. And then we'll talk to you guys, all right? We rehearsed it this morning, right here on Howard Stern. That's a tough one in the morning.
Let's hear it one more time, everybody. Come on. So I think we got to get you some microphones if everyone's going to sit down, right? Do we have the mics by the seats? Let's do that. Or are you going to move the chairs up? All right, whatever you want to do. We're working on the fly. I think we can all agree that Sammy Hagar, even starting at 3 o'clock in the morning, is mind-blowing as a singer. That is just absolutely nuts, man. You just turned how old?
76, brother.
The freak of freaks.
Who's counting?
The freak of freaks, as I call him, in the best of ways right there. Simply amazing.
Thank you, Eddie.
And I got to say this, as I'm sitting here about 3 feet away from Michael Anthony playing, and he's about a foot away from his microphone, yeah. And that voice is blasting right over here, sounding amazing. Like, it was amazing to sit this close to you guys and hear that vocal dynamic between the two of you, because it's the sound. It's the sound. But, Michael, your voice, like, it's crazy, man, what's going on there. It's just, I mean, we always heard it, but it's simply
the loudest
amazing.
voice
Nothing I can
I've
explain
ever sang with. When we do in the studio, when we have do background vocals on one mic, sometimes we'll just do some. It's like this. And I sing loud, you know what I mean? But this guy, he's like way back here to get a blend. If he's up here, you don't even hear yourself. Yeah.
When you hear that voice, you hear that's the secret sauce of the Van Halen stuff right there, man. The one and only. So, obviously, we're here to talk about this big tour that's been announced called the Best of All Worlds. We just heard the Van Halen classic from 5150, Best of Both Worlds. And the big beyond the tour, the big reveal about this is the return of Mr. Joe Satriani to working with you guys. Sammy, how did Joe come back into the fold here?
Well, there's a reason, because when Mike and I, Van Halen just released the box set of my era, the remaster and everything, so a band called Van Halen 2. So that thing went straight to #1 on all the charts. Mike and I were very active, and so was Al, to do the remastering. Oh, this needs more bass, blah, blah, blah. So we were listening to this catalog for the last 6 months, a lot. And Mike and I have been talking about, hey, how long can we do this? Hey, maybe they'll, Al will want to do a reunion and blah, blah, blah. And it just never happened. It's been 20 years since Mike and Al played with Al and Ed. 20 years ago.
Tour, yeah,
Coming up in June of next year, 20 years from the '04 reunion. Well, that's when we're starting our tour. Not intentionally, but it just happens to be. So Mike and I just one day just said, we can't wait another 20 years. I don't know how many years I can still sing and do this, And we just talked about it and said, hey, we got Jason who plays, just like Al, because Al plays just like his dad. It's kind of a round-and-round thing. And I said, hey, if we're going to go deep into the Van Halen catalog, though, we need Joe Satriani, because he's the only guy that really understands what Eddie. A lot of guys can imitate Eddie, millions of guys, right? Play him all day long. I can even noodle it, but I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. He knows what he's doing. And so gave Joe a call. He loved the idea. We're going to go deep Van Halen. I mean, we're going to play the best of all. We're going to play Chicken Foot. We're going to play Little Montrose. We're going to play, of course, my greatest hits and stuff. And then we're going to play a whole lot of Van Halen.
Well, I noticed that in the ad mat that came out for the tour, that you list a bunch of songs literally on the ad mat. And a large portion of them are Van Halen songs. And you and I talked about this a little bit, because with The Circle, you actually were spiking in more and more of the Van Halen stuff. And I said to you, I said, you might as well, because nobody else is out there doing it, and it needs to be heard. So it sounds to me like you're taking that to another level with this tour.
100%, and you had a lot to do with it, too. If you remember, we consulted you about who the guitar player should be and about things like that. Yeah, it's because, like I said, no one's going to do it. The music's got to be supported, and it's got to live on. And there's, how many young teenagers out there that worshipped Eddie and never got to see the band, and even with my era, which was 10 years after that. So yeah, we're gonna go out there and serve those people. We're gonna, for the young ones that want to see it and never got to see it, they're gonna hear the real voices at least, And I think the whole idea of having Joe Satriani, having a keyboard player from from Australia that plays with Joe a lot, that Joe calls the best musician he ever played with, which I'm insulted, but that's a whole other story. And he's got a name that I can't even pronounce, and he's a great singer, great guitar player, and a great keyboard player. So we're going to have everything live, no backing tracks.
This is what you love, Eddie, the 100% live.
Real.
What a concept, a live rock show that's live. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
No nothing.
Thank you. God bless you. Joe, let me ask you about this coming back in. Obviously, you've worked with Sammy and Michael and Chicken Foot.
Yeah.
And, I know you and I have talked a lot over the past years, and you were like, always had a desire to kind of revisit that. This isn't that, but you may play some of that, I'm assuming, in the set. But what was the appeal for you? Because, you've got a lot going on. I know you've got G3 stuff. You've got a tour with Steve Vai coming up. You've got a lot of things going on. But what, for you, was the appealing thing about this, digging into the VH stuff?
It was actually playing with these guys. I mean, that was the main thing, was that I was thinking, as you said, the Chicken Foot might not come together and do an album and a tour in a traditional sense, but I really miss playing with Sam and Mike, and I never really got a chance to play with Jason for any length of time. We did a couple of things here and there. But I knew there was a connection. There'd be a great chemistry with us if we just had the right vehicle. And as scary as it is to have to stand up and play Van Halen songs, I thought, I'm going to do it because I don't want to pass out playing with Sam, Mike, and Jason. It's just too good to be true, So summertime tour, I mean, it's going to be so much fun.
And for people that don't remember this, like, I don't know, maybe it was a year, not even 2 years ago, that there was a leak, kind of this idea of a Van Halen celebration that, Joe, you were attached to.
Yeah.
That Jason Newsted had talked about, and Michael, I think you had mentioned it as well. And so you, Joe, were always kind of in the Van Halen orbit, if you will, for a while now. Can you talk a little bit about that? And is this kind of like maybe fulfilling that didn't happen? This is a way to still do it?
Well, yeah. I mean, I got to say, I mean, getting the call from Alex was just really out of left field. I'd never met him before, so it was great just to speak to him, to get to know him. And as I've said before, when he and Dave got on the phone and they asked me about, doing the tour, part of me said, yeah, I want to do it, and the other part said, don't say yes. It's like it's just too impossible to imagine going out and playing all these Van Halen songs. And I think I called him up once or twice and said, forget it. Like, I've tried it, and it just doesn't feel right. And I got to say that the idea that Mike was not going to be part of it was kind of bugging me. And I didn't know really how to figure that out, I mean, I was the outside guy.
Were you not going to be part of it? I thought you were kind of...
It's kind of funny because this was happening. I also got a call from Dave and Alex.
I got a call. No, I'm just kidding.
And Irving Azoff got a hold of me at one point because, he had been handling a lot of the Van Halen stuff. And Irving had called me when Eddie was still alive and just asked how I felt about possibly doing something. I said, yeah, but, obviously that never came to be. But I remember after I talked to Al, I called Joe.
Yeah.
I'm all, Joe. They were telling me they're talking to you, and Joe said, I don't know what's going on. And I mean that's as far as my involvement.
Confusion in the Van Halen world?
Yeah.
Gee,
Obviously, Joe's the right guy. You know what I mean? If for Alex to say, come, let's try to do this thing, it was like, to me, there was no other choice. Like, Vic Johnson, our guitar player in the Circle, great, fantastic guitar player. We play 5 or 6 Van Halen songs. He's all good. And I'm going, yeah, we might play about 15. He's going, whoa, dude, wait, how much time do I have? And I said, no, we're cool. You just, lay back for this one. We're going to go out there with Joe and do this thing, get this thing done while we're still young,
Well, clearly from the song we just heard, while you can still sing so incredibly well also, which is so important. Now, let's get to Mr. Jason Bonham back there on the drums before. I know you guys started early today, so we don't want him falling asleep and falling through those drums.
I'm good.
But, Jason, this just came to me. So, and Sammy, I don't know if you, and Michael, if you remember this, but the very first time I ever saw you, Jason, play with these guys was in Florida at the Hard Rock in Hollywood. You weren't the drummer in the band that night, but you got up. And actually, now that it comes to me, the song you played was Pound Cake, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was your...
And finish what you started, and rock and roll, and
wouldn't let me
Whole
get
Lot
up.
of Love, and he stayed up there for the whole night.
Yeah.
If you remember that.
Yeah.
He was going to
And
come
then
in.
I got the phone call the next day. That was the thing.
You
That
know
was
when
my-
somebody's right,
That was my introduction. But the weirdest thing about the whole thing was I was doing the Heart Tour, and I bumped into Sam in Denver. He was in a restaurant. And we just, actually I tried to avoid him for some reason, I don't know why, for whatever reason, and I just, in the end, fate would happen, we bumped into each other out of the bathroom, and he's like, whoa, I'm playing in Fort Lauderdale soon, do you want to come see me? And I'm like, yeah, cool, I'll come down, and I was late, as usual. I was going so fast, I missed the exit. Actually, no, I was going so fast, I missed 2 exits. And had I turned around, I came back, and they were already on stage. And he said, you know Pound Cake? And I'm like, yeah, I know Pound Cake. Ran to my car, bought it on iTunes, just to make sure. And his wife, so Sue, Mike's wife, was outside going, I think Jason's buying listening to Pound Cake in his car.
My wife walks by
I just wanted
Jason's
to
car
make
and he's in there
sure-
listening to Pound Cake. She's like,
I just
"Jason,
wanted to make sure that I knew it, But then, yeah, the next day, he goes, you want to be in the band? And I was like, I've been here ever since. Next year's my 10-year anniversary.
Wow, that's amazing. Sammy, what's he got, a watch, bottle of tequila? What do you got for 10 years?
Well, the problem is him and Joe are born on the same day, and I have to buy 2 cakes every year, so I'm going to...
One.
You know what I'm saying?
It'll be 1 cake, it'll be...
2 cakes on the
One big cake.
same day. These guys are born on the same day. It's so freaking crazy. But, it just shows you about chemistry, like... what we're trying to do here, Mike and I, we've been fishing in that Van Halen pond for a long time without trying to look have egg on our face like we're trying to be Van Halen. I mean, I'm Sammy Hagar. You know, I got Montrose, I got Chickenfoot, I got my soul stuff, and I love my Van Halen years, don't get me wrong. But to just say, you know, we're just Van Halen. So we've been trying to tread in water on that, trying to be careful. Like I said, not to, you know, have people say, oh, yeah, now they think they're Van Halen, because, you know, there's always some haters out there. So, but long story short, when we do Van Halen, see, the first time I heard Jason play Pound Cake, the first time I heard him play Rock Candy, a Montrose tune, which Denny Carmassi from Montrose, who was also in Whitesnake and bands like that, and in Heart, you know, he's a great, great drummer. John Bonham, hero. Every time we're in the studio, I want to get the Bonham sound. Everybody's going for the Bonham sound. Alex Van Halen, every album. I want the Bonham. I want my drums sound like Bonham. We go and hire the guy that did it, who the late great Andy Johns, so Al could get that drum sound on Foreign Lawful Carnal Knowledge. So when Jason sat down on the drums, I'm going, I found my drummer. He can play Montrose sound just like it. He can play, because those guys are playing like his dad, and he plays like his dad. And then when we play Led Zeppelin, it's like, holy Christ, I'm in Led Zeppelin for a minute, you know. But so now Joe can play Eddie's stuff right. He knows it. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to ad lib and how to not to, and what to, you know, what the you can't leave certain licks out that are iconic, you know. And it's, I think we really got it now. So we feel confident, and especially having a keyboard player and stuff, that we feel confident we can bring the Van Halen stuff and do it as good as it can possibly be done today.
Joe, that's
the idea.
What's your, yeah, for sure. And we need that. We miss that. And
you do. I miss it.
Yeah, and the fans certainly miss it too. And that recent box set, for those that don't know, Sammy mentioned it earlier, there's a box set. Finally, the Sammy period of Van Halen has been addressed in terms of remasters and what have you. There's a fantastic box set out now that also has a bonus disc with a bunch of tracks, some of which I actually forgot about, that
it's awesome.
Compiled on there. Yeah. That's really cool. So that's out now. But Joe, I wanted to ask you, you know, from a guitar playing standpoint, obviously, you know, Eddie Van Halen was the guy that everybody looked up to. For you, what was the impact like of hearing Eddie on your playing? When was the first time you heard him play? And going into doing this, what are you going to do? Are you going to stay as faithful as possible to what he did, or are you going to put a little Satch in there as well? How are you going to handle it?
Well, first time, I remember clear as day, the first time I heard Eddie play, and it was Eruption coming through the radio. And I was living in this little apartment, and early in the morning, and I decided I'm going to practice my usual routine, you know. But I thought I'll just turn on the radio and jam along with the radio. And then all of a sudden,
lo and behold,
this beautiful sound fills my apartment. And I just stood there like amazed, and I was so happy, though. You know, the major part of me was so happy to hear somebody play so well and so beautifully, and just sort of reimagine the instrument, what you could do with it, with all that attitude. And it was still dangerous rock guitar, but it was really beautiful what he was doing. And so besides, you know, when the song was over, I went, now how does he do that? That's when the hard work started, you know, trying to figure out how, you know, when you hear someone who's brilliant, you go, okay, I'm done enjoying it now. I got to figure it out. And I was teaching at the time, so I really did have to figure it out, because all my young students, like Kirk Hammett, they were all like, what is he doing, you know? And that had such a big impact on me. But the most important thing was that it excited me about the guitar. It came at a time when pop music was, you know, chipping away at guitar playing once again and trying to marginalize it a little bit. And Eddie just came on the scene and went,
polite.
no.
He's
like,
so polite.
You know, we're not going to do that. And just, you know, record after record, he would come out with something that would just make your jaw drop each time. Besides great, fun songs that could fill an arena or a stadium and just make you feel good, whether you're in your car or in your apartment like me, or you know, going to a concert. I mean, that stuff traveled, which was really amazing.
But talk about, you said what you told me that I didn't realize. I'm a guitar player. I've played with Eddie for 11 years, and I didn't know what Joe told me, because this is why I know he understands what Eddie did. And I said, what? He said that Eddie never played the same thing twice. You know, like he's been going deep live tracks, listening to stuff, you know, on bootlegs and stuff around and going by the records. And Joe explained that he left a lot of room for improvisation. And I'm going, wow, I played them all them years, heard all them solos, and they sounded like he was playing not exactly the same shit, but pretty much, you know what I mean? And Joe said, no, not really.
Yeah, I mean, if you're, like in my job, being an instrumental guitar player, I see, as I'm going down that road of playing a melody, something like, you know, Surfing with the Alien or Satch Boogie, I can see all the alternatives, because I played it a million different ways until we decided on the one that we left on the album. As fans sitting at home, you know, they hear that one version of Satch Boogie and they might think, well, that's the only way that Joe hears it. But it's not the case. And you can, if you're lucky enough to sit down and just listen to all those great live clips watching Eddie play, you can see he just kept moving. You couldn't stop him from improving and sort of investigating what else he could have done with each song. And, you know, he'll, like you said, he'll do those, the iconic moments. He's got to do those riffs. But then he leaves this big freeway open with 8 lanes, and he's just going to be having fun with it through the night. And
Reckless driving, for sure.
So what's your approach going to be, given what you just said, and how he did change things night to night? What lane are you going to drive down when you, Joe Satriani, play the Eddie Van Halen stuff?
I think the main thing I learned in back when I got a gig playing with Mick Jagger back in '88, and that was
Name dropper.
Yeah, it was crazy. And we were talking about that on the drive over, and how, you know, I knew I wasn't the right guy for the gig, you know, but I did it anyway because I just wanted to meet Mick and hang out and see what it was like. But I got the gig, and then suddenly I had to represent all these lead guitar players that had been in the Rolling Stones playing these songs. And I remember sitting at rehearsal thinking, well, you know, sitting down with Mick and saying, how am I going to do all this stuff with just one guitar? And he said, oh, don't do any of it. Just go out there, just be yourself. Just like get into the song and then do what you would have done if you were there playing the song. Now, those songs are a lot easier to just join in on than Van Halen songs. Van Halen songs they're kind of built around Eddie's architecture, right? Alex's heavy groove, Mike's, you know, huge bass lines, and then in the case of the second era with Sammy singing, this incredible thing that Sammy did, weaving his melodies. I don't know how he did it, how he sang inside of that madness that was, you know, Eddie's composition. Because when you play them, it's almost like he just picked every odd offbeat he could think of to throw the singer off.
Michael's chuckling.
That was
over
only
here,
the
too.
last year.
I think Michael dealt with that some on his end because he's laughing as you're talking.
Because when Eddie would write a piece of music, it's like it was almost like he didn't have a lead singer in mind or what was going to happen there. Because you can listen to almost every piece of Van Halen music, any one of our songs, and it holds up as an instrumental almost, because Eddie wrote it like it was just a bunch of bar chords where the singer can do whatever he wants with a melody over it. Sammy had his job cut out for him because Eddie,
5150, songs like that, man. It's a piece by itself.
Yeah.
You don't even need lyrics and vocals. It's my favorite Van Halen song. It's such an acrobatic thing that you have to do to get, you know, a vocal.
The song 5150.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
That song is so intensely, it's just a perfect, gorgeous piece of music, instrumental by itself. The guitar is so busy and all that stuff. Well, let me give you, Joe, one more credit, though. I got to squeeze this in, speaking of 5150, on Summer Nights. That song, Eddie wrote that guitar part on a guitar that has a, Joe explains what it is, but it's like a...
Yeah, trans-trim.
It trans-trims so that you can change the key without capo. You can hold one chord and go... Yeah. Without moving his hand, right? Yeah. So Eddie wrote that song on there, and he used that thing like crazy. Now, we only played Summer Nights on the 5150 tour, and it was only about halfway through because you'd break a string on that thing, or Eddie would be a little too high and go into wrong key, and it was too hard to play that thing. So we never played it. So, and it's one of the most requested songs on my website anyway from the Van Halen fan. They oh, you gonna play Summer Nights? You know, that's all they want to hear is Summer Night. and fucking us play that thing in a big amphitheater. Look, I got goosebumps just thinking about it. Okay.
Can we hear a little bit of it right now?
Well, Joe can play
Joe,
it
can you
without
play a little
that
bit of
fucking
it?
thing.
I can't let you.
I screwed it up early this
He
morning.
screwed it up.
Talk
Or give
like
him
that,
another
not give me a
shot.
little.
We'll try. We'll do a little piece of it. At least, you know.
Can I practice a little bit?
Go ahead. Well, yeah. This isn't Howard Stern. Oh.
You're. Oh, what are you doing to me
come
over here,
on,
Sammy?
Eddie.
I thought we were friends.
See what I mean as I'm telling you.